All over the country, electric bills are climbing, but one of the biggest utilities in the Southeast just did the opposite. Duke Energy Florida cut its residential bills by about 25% in 2026. That's not a typo. Down 25%. Here's exactly how they did it, and whether it lasts. Start with the size of it. Compared to January 2026, a typical Duke Energy Florida residential customer using 1,000 kilowatt-hours a month is paying roughly $50 less by the middle of the year. That came in 3 steps, about $33 off in February, another $11 in March, and about $6 more for the stretch from June through September. Stack those up, and you get a bill that's dramatically lower than where it started the year across Duke's 2 million customers in Florida. So how does a utility cut bills 25% while everyone else is raising them? 2 reasons, and neither one is charity. The first is fuel. Here's something a lot of people don't realize about their electric bill. A big piece of it, often a quarter or more, is just the cost of the fuel burned to make the electricity, mostly natural gas. Utilities don't profit on that part. They pass it straight through to you, dollar for dollar, through something called a fuel clause. When natural gas prices drop, that piece of your bill drops with it, and gas has been relatively cheap, so the fuel portion of Duke Florida's bills came down, and customers felt it directly. And it's worth understanding how that fuel clause really works because it's the single most misunderstood line on an American electric bill. When regulators let a utility charge you for fuel, they don't let it mark the fuel up. It's a pure pass-through. The company buys gas and coal on the open market, and whatever it pays, it bills to you. No profit added. To keep it honest, the utility estimates fuel costs ahead of time, charges that estimate and then trues it up later, refunding you if it overcollected or billing you if it came up short. That's why your bill can move even when nothing about your house or the utility's base rates changed. The commodity market moved. Duke Florida customers are on the good side of that swing right now because gas has been cheap. But the exact same mechanism is what makes bills spike in places having a bad fuel year. Same rule, opposite direction. The second reason is more interesting, and it's about hurricanes. Back in 2024, Florida got hammered by 3 major storms: Debbie, Helene, and Milton. Duke spent heavily restoring power, and it was allowed to recover those costs from customers through a storm charge. But here's the thing about storm charges. The utility estimates the cost up front and starts collecting, then trues it up later against what it actually spent. In this case, Duke collected about $1 billion for storm recovery. The actual cost came in around $915 million. That left roughly $85 million that Duke had overcollected from customers. And under the rules, that money has to go back. So the Florida Public Service Commission approved returning that $85 million surplus to customers, flowing back through lower fuel rates from June through September. State President Melissa Seixas called it the third rate reduction for customers this year. So the 25% isn't a gift. It's mostly cheaper natural gas, plus customers getting back money they overpaid for storms that turned out to cost less than feared. Which raises the real question: will it last? Be careful here because both of those forces can reverse. Natural gas prices are volatile. They're low now, but a cold winter, a supply disruption, or rising export demand can push them right back up, and the fuel clause works in both directions. When gas gets expensive, your bill climbs just as directly as it fell. And the storm refund is a one-time event. It happens because a previous estimate was too high. The next major hurricane, and Florida gets them, resets the whole storm cost cycle, and a new charge starts collecting all over again. So enjoy the lower bill, but understand what it is. It's not that Duke Florida suddenly became cheap to run. It's that 2 temporary tailwinds, low fuel prices and a storm cost refund, happened to line up in the same year. The underlying trend, the cost of building and hardening the grid, hasn't gone anywhere. Florida is also uniquely exposed to these swings, which is worth knowing if you live there. The state leans heavily on natural gas to make electricity, more than most, so when gas prices move, Florida bills feel it fast. And Florida sits directly in Hurricane Alley, which means storm recovery charges are a near-permanent feature of the bill, not a rare event. Put those two together, and you get a state where electricity bills are structurally volatile, swinging with the gas market and the storm season in a way that calmer regions never experience. That's why a 25% drop and a painful spike can both be true within a couple of years, from the same utility, without anyone changing the base rate at all. Volatility cuts both ways, and Florida gets more of it than almost anywhere. Here's the useful takeaway, and it applies no matter where you live. Look at your own bill and find the fuel or energy charge line. That's the part that moves with gas prices, the part the utility doesn't profit on. When you understand how big that slice is, you understand why your bill can swing up or down, even when the utility's base rates never change. Duke, Florida customers are seeing the friendly version of that swing right now. Most of the country is seeing the other version. The thing to watch is this winter's fuel filing and the next storm season. If gas prices hold and the hurricanes stay offshore, Florida keeps its lower bills. If either one turns, the 25% cut unwinds fast. We'll be tracking it. If your electric bill keeps rising, this channel breaks down a different utility every week. Subscribe and watch the next one right here.